Hi, everybody. Hi, it's great to see you. We already got a few people here. Thanks for coming by. It's my pleasure again to work with wonderful Helen from Irish Granny Tarot. I love talking with you, Helen. It's
It's
very
always a pleasure, Allie.
it
Always a
is.
pleasure.
It's so engaging and we talk about some really cool things. So thank you for coming. I
Oh, I'm
appreciate you.
I'm
Yeah.
honored to be a guest.
So you, of course, do your book work once a week. You do on Saturday. You don't tell us what, but last Saturday you did that book about the guy that kind of went bananas onto the other side, right? Okay.
There
What
we
was
go.
the name of it?
The
Brainwashing of
brainwashing
my
of my
dad.
dad.
And so I thought it would be a lot of fun for us to sort of cover the medium is the message, which some people get very confused by. I use it in my classes, and I can teach it. I've taught it to many 15 and 16-year-olds, and so I'm sure that I can explain it in a fairly simple way. And we can talk a little bit about your book. We can talk about different news ways that news come through, media comes through, and so this is what I was hoping for, just a back and forth exchange of thoughts and ideas. So,
Well,
and
thank God that you teach this because I had to. I mean, I was familiar with the name and the
yeah.
terminology, and I had to go back and started reading explanations, and I thought my eyes were going to cross. But
Oh.
I think I know what they're getting at.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
but set us straight, Allie.
Sure. Well, he wrote this in 1964, and it was long before we had all these television stations, all of the internet. Um, there were magazines, but there weren't as many as there are now. And technology has increased so exponentially since 1964 that sometimes I get pushback from other academics that say, oh, that's an old paradigm. It doesn't have anything to do with today. But no, it really still does. In fact, it probably does even more, in my opinion. And so I'll tell you in a nutshell, everybody, what it is, and then we'll talk about it a little bit. So what we're doing today is Helen and I are talking about Marshall McLuhan's Medium is the Message and how that expands itself, shows itself in today's world, in media and other things. Because we have a lot of one of the other things he coined, I don't know if you're familiar, but he coined the word global village back in that.
Yes, I saw that.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes. And so, we didn't really talk about global villages again until much later, probably once the internet came about. But he was a very big visionary who would probably be in his early 100s right now if he was still alive. And I just feel like what he says is so true. And I have a really good example as well. But I know you will have the same in this book that you just read about the gal and her father. It's a girl, right, that wrote it? A gal?
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay. And I know you talked about it Saturday, but I haven't been able to listen yet.
Oh,
But I want you to enlighten us here. I think that it's going to be an interesting conversation. So McLuhan said that the forms or the methods of the media that are used to communicate to us information have an impact on the messages that they deliver. In other words, it isn't always the message that's the most important thing. It's where that message comes from. And we know this because we have such places like Fox, and their messages are crazy messages. And for those of us who don't care for Fox, we just know, oh, that's Fox. That's what they do. But the people watching that news are highly influenced by that. And they, that is what they go to. That's their go-to for all their information. Or Facebook, or emails that they might get with crazy, about the Onion, right, Helen? Do you know about the Onion
isn't it a
magazine?
satire?
It's a
A
satire.
parody?
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. And it's quite funny. And if you read it and you don't know it's a satire, you think that the people writing it are really crazy, because you don't realize.
Or
Yeah.
Republicans.
Or, yeah. Yeah. They
Terrible.
just didn't get it. They didn't get it. Um, so the form of media embeds itself in the message, creating a relationship by which the medium influences how the message is perceived. So in other words, there's a message that comes off of Fox News, and the perception of how that's received is influenced by where you get that information from. So if we said, oh yes, we read the Onion every day, and we don't know that it's a satire, then we think, oh my God, all this is true. And I know that people started looking at Snopes to see if anything was true when they were reading it, and certainly during the Trump years. And then the people who said that they got their information from Snopes and it was accurate, then Snopes was shut down because it was considered to be a left-wing, so you've got both sides. Yeah.
Wow.
I've heard it before. Oh, you got it from Snopes? Well, they're a left-wing group. They always cater to the left. And so, everything really does become an important part of how the message is received. So my best way of explaining this, and I tell my students this, is when Donald Trump was president, he used Twitter, as we all know, until he got kicked off. But what I asked them to do is I asked them to think back on how presidents in the past have communicated with people. And, we could go back to Franklin Roosevelt with his fireside chats. We can go, certainly in debates, public addresses. Even Barack Obama had a Twitter, but it was run by his office. It was very professional. It wasn't personal. But once Trump got on Twitter, that's how his presidency, a lot of people liked it because they felt like he was accessible to them. But what he did was he demeaned, if you think about it, he demeaned the whole idea of being president by having this negative, nasty Twitter and using that for his messages to come through. And if you didn't like that in 140 words, that would make sense. If you did like it, there might be several reasons why. The first reason might be that young people or people want to use the most updated technology. Or it could be that they feel like he's communicating right to them, that kind of thing. But I don't know about you. I always thought it was very unprofessional and very non-presidential, exactly what he was doing on there.
Well, I don't do social media. I've never been on Twitter. I don't even know what it looks like.
Okay.
Years ago, when it first came out, I started a Facebook page, and my children sprang up in alarm. I think they were afraid somehow I'd see what they were talking about. They told me that I was too old to be on Facebook and to immediately cancel it. And I've been trying for years to cancel it.
And it won't.
And it's like Nosferatu, it just keeps rising out of the dead. But I haven't read anything on Facebook or communicated there since maybe the first week of Facebook.
Sure.
I find they're not satisfying formats for having any kind of an intellectual give and take.
Right.
And you're not going to, your goal should not be to try to change people's opinion just by bombarding them. And there really is no other option. And you can't trust the stuff that you get.
True. That's true.
That people send you.
Right.
I wanted to ask you something more about McLuhan. Did he talk specifically about propaganda?
Yep.
And what did he say?
I don't know right off the top of my head, because this is about a 20-page, I think it's about a 20-page paper. Am I not right?
Okay.
Yeah,
it's a pretty long book.
Well, yeah, probably, yes. As a matter of fact, he did. And the first time he said it was, he wrote it as the medium is the massage.
Yes.
So the whole thing is kind of funny. So let me see. I'm going to pull it up and see. I believe that he, all right, here's a couple of them. The successor to politics will be propaganda. Of course, what happens? My spyware comes flying up. Hold on.
Critical alert from Microsoft.
Oh, goodness.
Your computer has alerted us that it is infected by a virus and/or spyware.
Oh, heaven's
This
sake.
virus may
Spyware?
be credit card details, Facebook login, and
How
personal
ironic
emails to
is
hackers
that?
remotely.
Oh, my God.
Please
That
call
is
us
so funny.
immediately at the
Well,
toll-free
sorry
number
to.
listed, so that our support engineers can walk you through the
Yep.
removal process over
Okay,
the
buddy.
phone.
Get away.
If you close this page before calling us, we will be forced to disable your computer to prevent further
What?
damage
Oh,
to
you're
our
full of
network.
shit. Honest to
Error
God.
number 268D3.
Open the pod bay
Critical
doors,
alert from
Hal.
Microsoft.
This is just
Your computer has
crazy.
alerted us that it is
I
infected
can't
by a
seem to
virus
get out of
and/or
here.
spyware.
Sorry, everybody.
Oh, yeah,
This virus may be sending your credit card details,
Oh, for
Facebook
heaven's
Oh,
login,
sakes.
and
Go
God.
away.
to hackers remotely.
Well, I'll tell
Please
you
call us
what.
immediately at the toll-free number listed,
This book,
so that our support
basically, in a
engineers can walk you
nutshell,
through the removal
Okay.
process over the phone.
said.
If you close this
Her
page before calling
observation
us,
over
we will be
time,
forced
and
to
it
disable
began
your computer to prevent
gradually,
further damage to our
was
network.
that her father,
Error
as he
number
became more and more
268D3.
inundated with Rush Limbaugh and Fox News and the combination of toxic emails from right-wing organizations and the reinforcement day and night of, listening to headphones at night and watching Fox News in the background all day long, that he
Yep.
changed from a very socially liberal, conscious, compassionate, democratic voter to somebody who was angry all the time and
Uh-huh.
suddenly disliked her gay friends, was against immigrants, his family having been immigrants,
Mhm.
against everything that you would assume that a right-wing radical would be in favor of or against. Those are the positions that he assumed, contrary to a lifelong history of social compassion and engagement. And
Mhm.
her mother was worried about his mental health. She was worried about it. Her brother, who only communicated with her father long distance because he lived on the other side of the country, got in touch with him and said, "What is wrong with Dad? What is going on with him?" They were
Yeah.
seriously concerned. Her mother, in her 80s, actually started actively looking for an apartment to file for divorce and move out. It got that bad.
Is that bad?
And then
Wow.
because she was in her 80s and really needed somebody in the house with her, Jen, the author, convinced her not to take action. They moved. And when they moved, their radio broke. And then and so he didn't have that constant feedback because he listened to Rush Limbaugh on the radio, all those talk. Yeah. Then when they settled in, their TV needed to be set up again. And they intentionally set it up so that he couldn't get the stations that reinforced the brainwashing. And the same thing happened with the computer. They blocked all the right-wing emails and substituted left-leaning stuff. And immediately began to see a change in his demeanor, his behavior, his state of mind, and his opinions. And eventually, he came back to his old self. And she did a documentary on it. And in the this book is based on the documentary.
Okay.
The documentary is on Amazon Prime, and as I mentioned the other day, I have not seen the documentary because my TV's not smart enough.
I get
has
it.
a little bit of a low IQ, but we like it anyway. I can't get it to show me the documentary.
Okay.
The book is excellent, and she talks a lot about the same kind. And I was so happy. She recommends the book. I recommend every video now. The Culture Trump. Dr. Stephen Hassan, expert on cults and mind control and brainwashing. And all the things he said are in, she talks in great detail about them in relationship to the radical right-wing Republican mindset.
Wow. So obviously the medium is, in this case, it was that particular news station and or anything else that projected anything to the right. And the message was, of course, propaganda and mind control. How old was this man in his 80s too, or 70s or 80s? Or?
Yeah, he was.
Okay.
He was. She's exactly my age, so he
Okay.
would have been. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Six.
So there
He
was
has
nothing
died.
wrong with him cognitively.
No.
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 Okay. Because
No.
you have to wonder that too. If somebody was in a cognitive space where they would be very well influenced by something like that,
Right.
it might even make it turn like that. But the
Right.
fact that he was so much on the left before he went into this craziness,
It's dramatic.
wow. Now
Well, she
the
talks
mother,
about. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
no, that's okay. I just wondered, the mother was there, but she wasn't listening to the same stuff.
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
The mother hated them. She hated Rush Limbaugh. She thought he was nasty, and she didn't
He
like
is.
Bach. Yeah.
Yeah.
But Jen, in her book, talks about the many Soviet KGB techniques of mind control that they garnered from Goebbels, the Nazis. Repetition, the big lie. The big lie is a Nazi term that's been adopted.
I know. I did know that. Yeah.
So repetition and if you're going to tell a lie, make it big, because people will be inclined to think, oh, surely they wouldn't lie about something that big. Yeah.
Right. And then repeat it and repeat it and repeat it. Yeah.
Right. And visual things, if you're watching television, you'll notice on news stories, the backgrounds are usually a combination of a vivid blue and a bright red. And there's a lot, like if you see breaking news, it's always written in a background of bright red to instill fear and anxiety and a sense of urgency. Right. And often the news reader will either be dressed in blue. That's why I'm wearing blue today, so you'll believe me. It's a psychological thing. Blue, you're more inclined to believe a person associated with that bright color blue.
Really?
And then the moving stuff and all the hoo-ha that goes on in the background, the trailers, all intended to create this impending something, anxiety, urgency, importance, right? Mm-hmm. And then the whole concept of interacting with computers is really problematic. I think McLuhan was really right about that. They now know, they've done studies, that your retention is lower, your comprehension is lower, it negatively affects your memory. Right. Because you're so distracted and you trust the computer to remember small details. No, I wrote this stuff down. It increases people's tiredness because people have their phone. And I find this very disturbing. People clutch their phone 24/7. I saw people on the red carpet at the Oscars, beautiful, multi-$1,000 gowns and jewels, and a phone clutched in their paw. It just drives me insane. You can't be unattached for any period of time because you might miss something, Oh, because I got a hotline to the White House. Nobody calls that's important. It's nonsense. I know. They create fake importance. Right. Yeah. And people are not comfortable with their own thoughts. I haven't been in a store in a long time. But the last time I was in the grocery store, they actually had little TVs at the checkout stands. Yes. And I asked the clerk, I said, what's wrong with people? They can't even go 3 minutes without being entertained or distracted. Yeah. Right. You bring up a really good point, because what is the message that, if you just look at all the things you've mentioned, what's the message from that technology? That you have to be attached, that you have to know everything that's going to happen, that and the color and the sound and the way flashing lights or whatever it is are attracting you. And if you're unconnected, you're going to miss out on something, and that's the message that comes from all these different mediums. And a lot of people like Putin and Trump and others know that, and they utilize that as their way to go with things. Well, it's a dependency. It is. Yeah. And I hate to say it, but it's making us all stupid. We now have our attention span has now been reduced to 8 seconds.
Wow.
Yeah.
Even us old folks?
Well, I guess it's entirely a function of how dependent you are on the technology.
Right, right. And we are dependent on technology for lots and lots of reasons. I was thinking that if we had a something, the grid go down, if we had the grid go down, that would mean we'd have no electric, we'd have no satellites, we'd have nothing. How many people would probably die of insanity because what would they do? They don't have anything. It would be scary.
They wouldn't know how to entertain themselves. A lot of people took the pandemic as an opportunity to learn new skills, to be more introspective. But the majority of people took the opportunity to Netflix and chill. That actually became a well-known phrase, right?
Yeah.
And I think it's distressing. I'm just a snob. I think it's a terribly distressing situation that people don't read. I think there's such value.
There is value.
Mental brain power value and emotional value, connection to the past, connection to the human experience. And you don't get that from watching Downton Abbey or
right. Well, I mean, even Downton Abbey would be good compared to some of the other fare that's out there, The Bachelor and all these other shows.
Now, I'm willing to debate you on that. Let me tell you something. I did a video yesterday on the English royal family that won't suit a whole lot of people. No, I have nothing but disdain for that. I've never watched Downton Abbey.
Okay.
And however, I am an avid follower of The Bachelor because I feel like Margaret Mead. It's
quality.
It's a sociological study. Things like Love After Lockup, and 90 Day. If you're going to watch TV, watch garbage TV.
Watch garbage. Do you remember the first reality TV show on PBS many, many years ago, The Loud Family? I think it was in the early 70s. They opened up their house and they had people come in, and that was, I can't remember the name of it, but they ended up getting divorced because they couldn't withstand all the pressure of having people in the house with cameras and all that. But that was really the first reality show that was out there.
I didn't know them personally, but that was in Santa Barbara.
Yes.
And
but you knew who they were?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. And it seemed really stupid to me because the kind of life they were living, a lot of people I knew.
Yeah. They were really airing their laundry out, as my mother would say, to let everybody see it. But I remember that as an experiment, and I thought to myself, wow, they're brave to do that. I couldn't do that. They were in there all the time being watched, I remember.
Well, the concept of having cameras on you and then letting strangers watch it, we're now numb. We're numb to that.
We are numb to it, but it seemed voyeuristic in some ways in the early days. Yeah,
it
definitely.
is.
Yeah,
it's voyeuristic and it's intrusive.
Right.
And what does it say about us that we have lost our outrage about that?
Right. So really, you can see how where something comes through influences the message that we get. And that's the crux of this thing. And it also influences how we feel about what's being shown, what's being done. And you're right, we become completely numb to it. We don't think about it anymore. It's just a normal thing to be going on. When it's funny too, because I was watching the news and they said you're going to see some disturbing pictures of what's going on in Ukraine. And of course, there were corpses and things like that. I remember eating my dinner in 1972, watching all the dead people in Vietnam because they used to show it. And I became very desensitized to that. Now I know they don't. I'm glad they don't all the time. But I thought, wow, this is nothing compared to what we saw every single day. When the news came.
We're so manipulated that they wouldn't show returning dead service people's coffins being unloaded.
Right. Yep. I remember that. Yep.
dissonance, the dissonance in that, the cognitive dissonance. You can look at them shooting each other in the rice paddies,
Right. You can't look
bandaging,
at the yeah.
but we don't want you to look at the coffins. Yeah,
Right.
it's
Right.
craziness.
Which is more respectful, obviously, of somebody's service. You know, the coffin is, you're not seeing anything but a coffin. I just want to catch this what was the name of the documentary Valerie said? I think it's the same name, The Brainwashing of My Dad. The Brainwashing of My Dad. Okay. Thanks so much.
And I'm going to do a little breaking news here on your channel, Allie.
Okay.
I'm going to break with precedent. I'm going to tell you something that I usually don't. I was saving it as a surprise. But if there are people actually interested in watching right now, I'm going to go ahead and say it.
Yeah.
The author of this book, Jen Senko, who was who made the documentary, is going to join me for a conversation on Sunday.
Oh, wow.
And it won't be live.
Okay.
But I'll be uploading it as soon as it's over.
That's wonderful.
Sunday afternoon. And so if anybody has a question, they can send you, and you'll send it to me, or they can go on.
Or go to Helen's community board. Yeah.
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 I go through my comments, so I'll see it
by
Sunday.
Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, that's wonderful.
Yeah.
I wonder if she can have her dad come on with you too.
Oh, well, he died.
I would love to hear what he says at this
Allie,
point.
He
really.
Died.
Oh,
he
died.
He was in his late 90s when he died, but we could use the cards and he could join us.
That's true.
I might suggest that.
That might be very cool. That might be very cool because he's in the all-knowing state now.
Exactly.
And he would know that he really traumatized his family is what he did. And he would know that now. Yeah.
Well, she's exactly my age, and she was raised Catholic.
Okay.
And we've had a little bit of exchange setting up this appointment.
Okay.
And
Good.
I get the sense that it's going to be fun.
Oh, I bet it is.
Yeah.
What time on Sunday will you be doing it?
Well, I'm doing
you're going to upload it. That's right. You're uploading it.
Yeah.
Okay. By the end of the day, you'll have it uploaded probably on Sunday.
God, I hope so. I never know. Some days,
yeah, I know. Yeah.
You know, it's not just me.
No, it's not.
Oh, good. It's just bizarre.
It's shit happens when you don't want it to. And so I hope it works out. Yeah.
Fingers crossed.
Yes, definitely. Well, I think that's real exciting that you get some real good guests coming on, some real good authors. It's wonderful because you can read the information they write, but you can also get further insights into their own personal story and how they feel. Or I'd really like to know how if she liked the documentary that was done on it, because when you write. Oh, she made it. Well,
she made it.
And she must like it.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. All right. Wonderful. So one of the other things about media, medium as a message, is that media is anything that extends our capability as humans. And it also changes the way we think and how we interact with each other. And that's exactly what that book was about. It changed the way he thought and how he interacted with other people. And it reminds me, I don't know if you're aware of this, but I bet you are. When we were kids, we would go to the movie theater, and they always had cartoons before the regular movie that you would watch. But they also had advertisement for popcorn, fresh buttered popcorn and Coke and everything. And I found out for a number of years, they were using propaganda to get us to get up and go get. It was, what do you call it? It was really flash images and things that you couldn't see.
Subliminal.
It was subliminal stuff. Yeah. And they went in there and they just, they changed it. But I remember everybody, when I was looking back on that, finding out about that, I remember how kids would get up at a certain point in time and have to get some Good and Plenty, or have to go get popcorn or get a Coke or something like that. And that's because that's where they make their money. And so they use that subliminal. Thank you. Yes. Subliminal messages.
Yeah.
And you have to wonder, even though it's illegal, if we're still having some of that done on some of these media.
Well, I wish I could remember the name of it, but I read a book I don't know, probably 15 years ago now,
Uh-huh.
that did talked all about marketing and advertising and psychological manipulation. And it
Hmm.
was fascinating. You know, when you walk into a grocery store or to a department store, it's not random where things are
Right.
set up.
Yeah.
They count how many times when people come in, they go to the left, count many times they go to the right, and the
Uh-huh.
expensive stuff that they want you to get on impulse is arranged where you
Correct.
first come in. Things that are more expensive are put on your sight line. The
Hmm.
cheap things are way high up where
Way,
you
way
can't.
up that you can't, or way,
Right,
way
right,
down. Yep.
right.
Yep.
Uh, Here's something that I'll never forget. If you go into a big department store like Nordstrom's or someplace kind of fancy, they always have
Hmm.
a separate section for women's hats and umbrellas and gloves, and you know what I'm, yeah.
Yes. Uh-huh.
And they're usually kind of cramped
Yeah.
areas a little bit.
Uh-huh.
Well, they discovered by setting up secret cameras that women would go into these areas and they'd be looking at stuff, and if they bent over and accidentally bumped somebody, or if they reached and accidentally came too close to another person, they'd leave and not buy anything.
Oh, really?
Isn't that, yeah? And so they totally rearranged those areas. I don't know if you even were aware. I looked after reading
Mm-hmm.
the book, and it's true. They started laying things out on flat tables and making bigger
Mm-hmm.
spaces between
Mm-hmm.
them. That's
Mm-hmm.
why. Isn't
You
that
know,
weird?
I worked in retail for a number of years, and I remember all the uh, what they call the price points and where you put those. And you're right, all the things at the checkout counter that are put there as items that you just you're standing there. So, oh, I really probably should get one of these and one of these. And of course, the candy was always there, and magazines is always, you know, in a grocery store is
Right.
always
All the
yeah,
that your kids start looking at and hoping that they'll
yeah,
get, you
right,
know,
yep.
yeah, yeah,
So there's a psychology to
yeah,
almost everything. And what
yes.
the medium that's used, because the medium isn't just media, the medium could be that candy
Mhm,
aisle.
mhm,
And the candy aisle is there, but the message is this is an impulse buy. You need to get it because you forgot it
mhm,
back there and you could get it
mhm.
here and you better get it now because you'll forget otherwise, you know.
That's
So
why McDonald's has their pies. I used to work at McDonald's. Proud moment. Proud moment in my life. They had their pies sort of in a glass heated
yes,
thing right on the counter.
on the counter,
And
and you could smell the apple pie and
that's
yes.
right. Yeah.
Uh-huh.
And you go up and they always say something like, "Would you like a large fry with that?"
Right.
They get in
Right.
trouble if they don't ask you that.
Yeah, I realized
Upselling.
it's just like now they have to ask you if you want a bag, you know, but at the same time, you know, they usually want to upsell you. They call it upselling. They're there. Don't like if you go in, you got one of these. If you get three, then you get half off this, and then you can get another one. And yeah, yeah.
So irritating. Yeah.
Yeah, I know, but it's all part of it. And advertising has been, you know, even advertising has been, the message is not as much like if you put it into Life, well, Life magazine's not around anymore. Let's say you put it into a big upscale magazine, like there's one called the Robb Report, and it's all kinds of fancy cars and cars you can buy, like, you know, like a Tesla or Rolls Royce. So you get the caviar advertisements in there, you know, champagne and caviar and all that stuff, because the people reading it can afford to buy that stuff. Yeah. You wouldn't go in there unless you were going to spend $250,000 on a car, probably. You wouldn't want to look at it. And the only reason I know is my ex used to like it, and it was his candy shop. Even though he didn't buy anything, that was like what he enjoyed and wanted in his life, which
Well,
wasn't what I
any
wanted.
magazine geared towards teenage girls, same thing. They'll have diet tips, fashion, and makeup, and that's
Mm,
about it. Even now, when we're supposed to be so enlightened, you know,
yeah,
it's
yeah, yep. Interesting. Well, I'm going to just put this up here, and maybe she will do it at when we get near the end of this. Gypsy wonders if you'll play a song on your harp.
I don't play the harp.
Oh, you
That's my
don't?
My
It's your
daughter,
daughters. That's right. It's your
my
daughters.
fourth daughter not only plays the harp, she plays the concert harp, but she started out on the Irish lap harp, and she was the #1 harp player in the state.
Wow.
If I may brag. Yeah.
Oh, you may.
Yeah.
You may.
And
That's
as an
wonderful.
adult now, she's gone back to it as, a pastime, a hobby.
Right.
At
Right.
one point, she wanted to do it professionally, and that's a whole other story. Now with COVID and the quarantine, I'm very grateful that she didn't go into musical performance, because imagine
That's
trying
true.
to make.
Yeah, she'd be traveling and being out there with everything. Yeah.
But thank you, though. Isn't that beautiful?
That's very sweet. Yeah. Craig says the drive-in theaters are the same thing. You know, I miss them terribly. I loved drive-in theaters. But yes, they would have the ads also for the mosquito repellent that you could buy that would, at least they did in the East. It was a green round thing, and you would light it and it would keep the mosquitoes away. So that, plus you had Pizza Hut and food and all that stuff that was always being told there. So the medium as the message is very influential in politics, obviously, because, and I'm just having a real delightful time catching a few of the ridiculous comments that the Republicans are asking the brilliant doctor, the brilliant lady that's running for the Supreme Court.
Judge Brown.
Yeah, Brown Jackson. Yeah, she's brilliant.
I don't know how she doesn't jump out of her seat and take them by the.
I know.
Oh my God! You know, Allie, the only thing that they didn't ask her yet, which is killing them to not be able to say it, is, can you tell us, Judge, why you're not a white man?
Yeah, because my husband is that, and then her husband is a white man. Yes, he's a surgeon. Yes, he is. He's a white man, and one of the is it Tom Tillis or one of the senators from, I think it's Michigan or Illinois, I don't know. He wants to have legislation at the state level banning biracial marriage.
Yeah, I heard.
This is how ridiculous this all is getting. And, you know, it just keeps going into all these crazy things. But yes, Lindsey Graham had a hissy fit yesterday, and he stormed out, actually. And they've been asking her, don't you think it's unfair that the other women who were up for this position were not treated well? And she's like, I don't know anything about that. I only know about myself. You know, they're asking her questions that are totally ridiculous.
Well, they're just trying to get airtime for their messaging. You know?
Oh, yeah.
They never miss an opportunity. I did a video a couple of months ago that was sort of dark, and I felt guilty, and it made people upset. But I predicted, not based on anything psychic, just my gut feeling from the way things have been going. I predicted that this is what I see happening as Roe is undermined and abortions are banned. Then the next thing, they're going after the LGBTQ community, all these transgender laws. I said, you are going to see coming up, and now they're saying it on mainstream television, you're going to see them banning contraception, even if you're married. They're going to outlaw contraception. They're going to make women unable to get loans for businesses. It's going to be the Handmaid's Tale.
It is going to be the Handmaid's Tale. I agree. It's really ridiculous.
Margaret Atwood was prescient. I think she's a visionary.
She is. Yeah.
And I believe that we won't be able to get our own checking accounts.
Like in the 80s.
I didn't know that was true. You have to. I think we'll have to get signatures in order to do business or financial things.
Yes.
Like I said, contraception will be completely illegal. They will ban interracial marriage. They're going to segregate the schools again. I mean, I can see they're going to at least really attempt to do it. Correct. Yeah, I agree. Feel it in my bones. Yeah.
Well, I remember my mom, she never had a driver's license. That was her choice. She just didn't want to, but she had a Sears card, and it was under my father's name. She couldn't get it in her name. And the same thing. And when she did a signature card at the bank, she would write Mrs. Donald Crooker. And you didn't write Alice. Her name was Alice as well. You didn't write Alice because that wasn't her name. Her name was Mrs. Donald. And
no, if you wrote Mrs. Alice Croker,
oh no, that's wrong too. Right. Yeah.
No, the understanding was she was widowed.
True. Oh, that's true. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. Yep. Just a mess. And I worked in a bank then, so I know exactly what was going on. I didn't think anything of it at the time. It just didn't occur to me because everybody did it. But the personal and social consequences of any medium or an extension of ourselves results from new scale by any new technology. So my mother, when she was at the bank, we started with the ATM cards. That was about 1982, I believe. And she wouldn't do it because she was afraid she'd do something wrong. And that's that generation, you know. And there are people I know that won't go on the computer because they think they're going to push something and it's going to destroy everything, you know, older people. And it's that indoctrination as well. Like, you're too old to do this. I hate that. I hate that kind of discussion, you know.
My mother never became an American citizen because women didn't vote. I mean, they did in the United States, but the pattern she was used to is women didn't have a political voice. So what was the point? Sort of second-class citizens. As long as her husband was a citizen, it was all good, right?
Right.
She never had a bank account.
My mother really didn't either until she got her Social Security check, and she only had it for like 2 years, and then she'd passed. And she had a savings account. It was very small. It probably was $300 a month or something because she didn't really have, you know, she worked at the school in the lunch program for a couple of years. You know, she didn't have a lot of money, but she made that money stretch so far. And, you know, she was so proud that she had her own savings account. And that was she died in 88. So it was like mid 80s that we're dealing with. It's not that long ago. And
shocking.
Now
it is shocking.
It is shocking.
I wrote down what you said, that the medium shapes the scale and it changes human action and
it does.
Makes structurally over time. And I think that refers to this loss of cognitive abilities and emotional dependence, just like a habit, smoking or narcotics or anything. It changes your brain chemistry, and they have observed that. There's another one that it used to be that the news reports about crime were about the crime, but now people will watch these news reports about crime, but the implication is about larger social issues.
Oh, yes. Yes. It's not just telling you what the news is like Walter Cronkite did and saying this is the way it was today and this happened and this happened. But now we got how I think about it, how it's influencing the world, how this responds to. It's always something else that we have to add.
That's not journalism. That's not
right.
Journalism.
It isn't. But Fox isn't a real news station either.
Well, they got rid of the fairness doctrine, which was
1980. Reagan did it in 84, I think. Yeah.
Reagan did everything. If you present anything on the television or the media now, you have to give equal time
the other side
to the other side, even if it's misinformation, it's erroneous, and fewer than 1% of the professionals push it. It has to get 50% of the air time.
Right.
Giving
the point counterpoint thing. Right. Yeah.
Which gives it more weight in the eyes of the public. People,
Yeah. You should be able to get both sides of the issue without having to be, pushed into one direction all the time.
Yeah.
Wow. And they're becoming, a lot of these news people are also becoming pawns like Tucker Carlson with Putin. I'm sure he's got some kind of a thing going monetarily. It's kind of a, because he always seems to think that everything that he does is fine, Well,
that Tucker Carlson is now on Russian news almost every night.
Is he really?
Yeah,
Wow.
Putin told what's
Them to
left
let
of
him
the
on?
Russian media that yes, that it's
Okay.
important to listen to his voice, and he's on every night.
That's
And
because he's on his side. And remember the girl that stood up with the thing on the news?
boy, that's
Boy, oh
courage.
boy. I know it was courage. Absolutely. Craig, I think that's funny, and I agree. If Republicans continue to do the things they'd like to do, like you were saying, Helen, what are they going to think about all of us and what we do?
You want you want to know what I feel in my gut? I
Sure.
feel like they're going to come after people like you and like me. They're going to come after because we're witches, right?
Right.
And
That's true. It's the old witch trial thing. Yeah. Yep.
I don't hold witchcraft as a pejorative. It's a religion, and I don't really have an opinion one way or the other about it.
Right. Yep.
But that's what they will say.
We'll say.
And
Correct.
yeah, I've gotten a few comments about
Yeah.
the
Yep.
devil.
I'm sure. Well, yesterday Graham asked the judge what her religion was, which is absolutely against the law.
Yeah.
When I remember going in 1980 for this job at the bank, and they asked me how many children I had and how many more I intended to have, which is now nothing you can ask. But he's a senator. He knows better than to ask her what her religion is. It's just, how do they continue to get away with this? And they were saying last night the reason is because the person that's the chairman, in this case Dick Durbin, he doesn't have an iron fist because they don't do it that way anymore. Well, I think we need a little bit more than that. He should have stood up and said that's against the law. He should have said you can't ask her that, as if he didn't know.
Well, what is this? The end of March?
Yeah.
Okay, so we have roughly 7 months before the election.
Right.
I think that the time has come to start demanding some sort of assertive, dare I say, aggressive action on the part of the Department of Justice and the federal, the executive branch in general, about everything, everything that's been going on. The Democrats need to hire a PR firm that knows about messaging.
Yeah.
They need to get their act together quickly. This is really alarming.
It is alarming.
Is sifting through the sand. The sand is sifting through the glass, and
right.
They're playing by gentlemen's rules that are non-existent now.
Unfortunately, true. Yes, because before it's like the idea of there's no middle anymore. There's only this way or that way. There's no centering anymore. And, we might have one or two people that were centrists, let's say, but we really don't have that anymore. Although yesterday was surprised by a couple of comments, one being from Josh Hawley, and he's the one that raised his fist, and somebody at first, somebody at first said, how can a tyrant or a traitor judge a judge? You know what I mean? How can he be allowed to do that? But he did say, if I heard him right, when he was talking, he said, you've really impressed me with how human, or whatever the word is. I don't know. It was a real compliment, actually. Then he proceeds to tear down some of the decisions that she made. But she comes back and she says the reason that it had to do with length of time that was recommended for a felon or a person that did something. And she said, well, Justice Scalia got rid of that. And the Senate and the House haven't done anything about bringing it back. And so, I was like, yes, she's so smart that, and he was like, whoa, and so Dick Durbin says, okay, well, I'll be expecting to see some legislation written for that, Josh, as soon as you can.
You want to talk about integrity and voting fraud? Josh Hawley does not live at the address he provides. That's his sister's house that he provides for voting so he could be senator.
Right.
Mark Meadows, the same thing.
Okay.
Mark Meadows was in Congress, I believe, North Carolina. I could be wrong about that.
Yes, he was. Yep.
Yeah. He you're going to love this. The address he wrote down in order to qualify to run and to vote in the district was the address of a piece of land with a double wide trailer. This particular trailer had been rented to his wife in previous years for a couple of days as a vacation, and it was empty 6 months of the year. Mark Meadows never darkened the doorway of the property, and when the owner was contacted, she said, "I don't know what you're talking about."
I bet.
They knew from having his wife stay there for a couple of days that it was empty most of the time, and they thought, well, that's a good address. So let's talk about fraud.
Yeah, absolutely.
Elise Stefanik from New York. She did not live, she does at the moment, but she did not live in the northern New York State area where she's now a representative. When she decided to run, she moved into her family's holiday cabin in the north, bought a truck, and started wearing plaid shirts and hanging out at the general store.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah. What's the message there? You know, I can get away with whatever I want to do by just changing how people see me, you know? I think that's, you know, I mean, when I thought about this whole idea and talking about this idea, I also talk about it with my students. And I say to them, you can talk about the medium as the message with rape culture, with drugs, with this, with that, all these different things. You know, they write their research papers on it and they take a look at what that medium used to be or what the medium message is now. But, you know, I know everybody is aware that we have this propaganda, and at the same time, we are force fed it so much that it's very, very difficult for us not to be influenced by it.
Yeah, it's deeply entrenched in the culture.
Yes, it is. Yeah, deeply entrenched. And it was the same way for religion. Maybe it still is, but when we were growing up, you know, I wasn't allowed to date a Catholic because I was a Protestant, and I might marry him. Then I'd have to be a Catholic, and that would be awful, you know. It was ridiculous.
Well, they were right, but that's another conversation.
Oh, well, yeah. My aunt ended up marrying a Catholic, and, you know, so my mother knew that it wasn't going to be a good idea, you know. But it's so funny how, you know, we have these messages that come from religion, from politics, from media, from advertising, from Nordstrom's, all those things. And we don't really, a lot of people don't really ever question it. There's never any discussion about it. There's never any thought given to it because they're simply unaware.
If you're on Facebook all of the time, debating about burning American flags and looking at cute cat videos, where are you going to have the time to do any kind of reading or research?
Right.
Or,
even research. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep. Well, this is interesting. Patricia says in Oklahoma, you're not allowed to have a trailer home on your property where the home is. But they allowed Mary Fowler, when she was the governor, to have a trailer house for her daughter personally on the property the governor's house sat on, and they did nothing about it. Yeah. Wow.
Thank you. That the spirits beyond the stars. She often comments on my videos, and
yeah.
Now there's somebody who does her research. It's really
she does.
Great.
She does.
Remarkable. Yeah. Thank you. Yes.
I know. And Gypsy's in Oklahoma as well. I have such really good, and I know you do too. You get a lot of really good people watching and giving you some feedback, and there's nothing better than having that, because you know, this is all a discussion and everybody's got different views and or information that they can pass along. So yeah, I agree. I think it's wonderful. So
well, it's obvious people are hungry to know what's going on.
Absolutely.
And for interaction with people who aren't delusional.
Oh, wow. So Craig says he wasn't allowed to date a white girl. Parents would give them hell, but we did it anyway. Oh, good for you. It reminds me of Janice Ian's song. Remember the Janice Ian song back in the 70s? She brings "Come to My Door, Baby." His skin was black, and she was a white girl, and they said you can't date that person because they're not the same. You're not the same.
Well, yeah. I'll tell you something. I don't talk about this very often because I'm ashamed of my past ignorance. But
Uh-huh.
one of my sisters married a man who's black,
Uh-huh.
and that set me straight about a lot of casual racism that had no evil intent behind it. It was
Right.
born of utter stupidity. But we had front row seats to the reactions of
Oh, I bet you
people,
did. Yeah.
and I worry about them constantly now because of the way the tenor of
Yeah.
the
It's,
atmosphere in the
it's gone
country.
back
Yeah,
up to that. Yeah.
it's
And
insane.
I remember when Barack Obama got elected and I found out his mother was white. It really astonished me because what was he born in 63 or 62 or something? People didn't marry black and
I
white at
know.
that time.
I
And
know.
I don't even know how she did that, or you know what I mean? Because
I think she was. If I, it had something to do with education. Either she went to where he was,
yeah,
or
they were
he
together at
was.
college. Yeah,
Yes,
yeah.
yes, and
But
that's why.
still,
Yeah.
it wasn't accepted. Don't you
No.
remember that was the same year, I believe, Guess Who's Coming to Dinner came out? That
Yeah.
movie.
Oh, listen, my parents about blew an artery when I got involved with a guy who wasn't a Catholic. So.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah. I understand. Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah. Here we go with Juno says that her family, she was basically disowned by because she married a Native American, and now we have a Chinese boy because he was a Buddhist. Wow. Deb, I'm a Buddhist too, and I love it.
Are you?
I love it. Yeah.
I can only laugh, and I know that's not the right reaction because these are serious issues and dreadful things have been derived from that kind of prejudice.
Yes.
But
Yes.
you can only laugh at the ignorance. It's just
it is the ignorance, but it also was when Marshall wrote Medium's Message, it was a 64, and that all that stuff was going on, and that's why I think even more today it's more prevalent or more relative to what we're talking about than it was then. But you know, the whole idea that we lived through this, we came to the other side of it, or we thought we did, and now we're being shoved back to that side again, just is unconscionable to me. Just like the women's rights movement, you know, it's ridiculous. Yeah, she took a black girl to the dance. When we went to pick her up, her family was on the porch. Oh, that's nice. I'm glad they did go, because sometimes, yeah, it does. It took courage, especially in the 70s. Yeah. Yep.
Well, you
And
know
you're
what they
right.
say about a pendulum?
Yes.
You know,
It swings one side to the other. Uh-huh. Yep.
has to be given a push.
Yes, that's true. That's very true. All right. So Manafort tried to catch a plane to go to Dubai, and he got stopped by the authorities because his passport had expired. All those people that were pardoned are all going to end up right back where they were. It's you know that because they're still corrupt. So it's just funny that
It's terrifying. It's
it
just
is
really
terrifying. It is. It is. That's for sure. Well, I'm looking forward to watching your interview with on Sunday night with your author of the. And I think that all of us could say that we probably know someone who, maybe not our father or someone in our family, but we know somebody who we thought was very reasonable, went sort of deep six with this whole thing, and actually are probably still there because they go to all those rallies, and they are interviewed by like Donny O'Sullivan, who goes and they, that he's coming back, Trump's coming back, and all of that stuff. So we know that these people and these QAnon people, there need to be major camps to deprogram these folks. It really does.
Anybody can be brainwashed. Anybody. And in fact, you have to be very careful. My husband was telling me that he'd been looking at Fox News, and I warned him. They discovered, she talks about it in the book, all you need to do to get brainwashed is to watch it three minutes a night.
Are you kidding? Oh my God. Wow.
That's how powerful it is, because it's the repetition. It's the constant reiteration of
Yeah.
lies. And whether
Yeah.
you like it or not, it works on a
Yeah, it does.
subconscious level.
Subliminal level. That's why he always repeats everything over
Yes.
and over again.
You'll notice Trump says things 3 times.
Three
It was
times.
beautiful. It was a beautiful phone call. It was beautiful.
Yeah.
Every time.
Let's just
Yeah.
keep, yep. Or, and of course, that's why he keeps saying that it was a rigged election. That's why he won't say it isn't. But I did hear that Mo Brooks, one of his cohorts there on January 6th, he's not supporting him anymore because he said that Biden won. So Trump does.
Trump is not supporting Mo
Correct.
Brooks anymore.
He's gonna support the other guy. Yeah, which is very, very, and you just know it. He's not a friend at all. But if he was, he's a fair weather friend. He only uses people.
He's a psychopath.
Yeah.
He doesn't know how to be a friend. Yeah,
that's very
Listen,
true.
I'll tell you, I have lost my 4 closest friends and my 2 closest relatives to this insanity.
I understand. Yeah.
People with master's degrees, professional positions, years of education. It's got nothing to do with intelligence.
Right.
It's more closely linked to an affinity for organized religion, any kind of patriarchal institution will predispose you to it.
Right.
And that's why they went hog wild for the fundamentalists.
Sure. And between repeating and also giving them their forum to hear the message and hear the message and hear the message, it has really increased a lot more dependency on that side. It's like, or what do you want to? The brainwashing. Sorry, I couldn't think of the word.
Dr. Hassan pointed out that studies show that when there are times of turmoil, chaos, the more change that's happening quickly, people gravitate towards authoritarians because if they're predisposed to seek out security, if they feel fear, they want to be
taken care of. Right. Yeah. It's very interesting that you say that, because I remember when I was studying Diderot and Rousseau and the French Enlightenment people, they would say very much so that most people want to be told what to do. And I remember reading that, and I remember thinking, that's ridiculous. Who wants to be told? I'm an independent person. And they said, no, really, most people do want to be told. They wouldn't admit it, maybe, but they really do, because they'd rather not make that decision. That way, if it was wrong, they can blame it on that other person.
That's right. Well, and then there's the trauma, whatever level of trauma from the past, in which people have these deep-seated fears of they need security. And an external framework of security. So it's hard to point fingers sometimes, because you can understand the motivation for why people seek that out.
Absolutely, especially if there was trauma involved or PTSD or any of that. You want to seek out somebody that's going to, take care of you, or, it makes sense. It's just scary.
Yeah. An authoritarian upbringing of whatever sort, whether it has to do with the religion your family had or the way your parents interacted, that predisposes you to be fearful, need to be told what to do, seek out the security of somebody who's a strong leader, no matter what, even when you know they're lying,
And but I don't think, do you think people don't realize that too, though, that they're doing that? It's because some of the things that these people are gravitating to are things that they have been opposed to most of their lives, such as, they want America to be free and have freedom and this and that, and yet they really don't, because they're bringing in this. They don't want change. They want to go back to the way things were, and they want to have their guns and all of that stuff. And I don't know. It's such a psychological, deep-seated thing.
There's a lot of manipulation going on,
right?
And an appeal to this fake past, this nostalgia for an America that never really existed.
That really never was there. Yeah.
A lot of white male insecurity going on, because the truth is
Right.
they are losing ground and they don't
Yeah.
want to give it up.
Right.
But I don't think that people are terribly introspective most of the time.
No.
A lot of people fool themselves into thinking, well, I'll go along with it, and then when I'm in a good position of power, I can do what I want to do, the right thing.
Right.
But you never have security when you're coming from that point of view.
No, you don't.
And there are people who are greedy, venal, craving
Yeah.
power. You
Yeah.
know that.
Was just he had that big Putin had that big speech and saying about how they took over what was it, the place near the Black Sea, can't think of the name,
Crimea.
Crimea, thank you. And that now we're going to get the Donbass, and now we're going to do this, and he told people to come, and the same modus that Trump did when he has those people behind him with signs and all that.
Yeah.
He told them that his thing was, we'll jail you. We'll take things away from you if you don't come.
Yeah.
And with Trump, they'd pay him to come.
Yeah.
But I don't know.
Bribery. I was thinking about the other day the Crimea. That's where Florence Nightingale did her work as a nurse. The
I had no idea.
War.
Okay.
And here we are in full circle, back at it again. Yeah.
You're right.
Isn't that awful?
Well, and when I talked to Andre the other day, who's the astrologer, and he's really, really good.
Right.
He was saying how we're in the same position with one of the planets as a civil war, and the other planet is 1776. So we're right in the midst of all this crap.
Yeah.
We really are.
Yeah.
And, a lot of people just don't put any stock into it, but it surely does revolve around things repeating themselves and not learning the lesson. And when you hear about people who survived the Holocaust now being killed in this Holocaust that's happening right now, and somebody said, never say never again. And yet here we are. So,
well, we don't learn our lessons. And so
No,
we're
we don't.
provided every time with a fresh, more intense opportunity to learn the lesson. And if we don't learn it this time, it'll be worse yet again. Yeah.
It will be. Yep. What is it? The definition of insanity: doing the same thing over and over and expecting something different. Yeah. So, wow. Well, thank you, Helen. It was so enjoyable to have you here today. I love talking with you. Thank you for everybody in the chat for being here and offering some wisdom and hanging out with us for a little while. And hopefully we'll be doing this again, because we sure got lots to say.
It's an honor to be invited. Thank you very much. This is my social life these days.
Mine too. Thanks so much.
I'd make
Bye,
you
everybody.